Finally, we're at the point where we're going to add icons to our application. Icons are almost essential. You probably could have lived without knowing all that CSS styling, which, even though it's useful, you can still build your application successfully without it. But without icons, no application is really complete. So why did I postpone this video for so long? Well, it's because icons require some work. Not to worry, it's not really hard work, it's just a little bit more tedious than we're generally used to. Okay, so let's start. The first task when it comes to implementing icons in your application is to, well, find the icons. You can either download some free icons from the web, or you can create ones on your own, or you can hire someone to create them for you, whatever you prefer. But in my case, I just downloaded some freely distributed icons from the web that kind of follow the same design and style. For the purpose of this video, I have saved our dialog from Qt Designer in a directory and named that saved UI file css.ui. I've also created the icons subfolder, which contains our three icons. As you can see, we have facebook.png, Google+, and Twitter icons. Also, don't worry about getting icons with the .ico format. PNG icons are well supported in all major operating systems. Now the second task is that tedious task. In order for us to use icons, we need to create a so-called resource file for the Qt to use. A resource file can be used for many things, one of which is obviously including icons in your application. But another important usage of the resources is the translation part of it. For example, if you want to have a multilingual application. Lots of programming languages use resources in one way or another. And if you're an Android developer, you'll know what I'm talking about for sure. The resource in Qt is a file that has a kind of a XML style syntax, which is specific but fairly simple. Still, we need to manually create this file, and by that I mean there's no any kind of tool that automatically generates this file for us. So we have to type it in and then load that as a resource in the Qt Designer. This file also needs to have a specific extension to it, which is QRC. And by default on Windows, and I believe on Mac OS as well, you're not able to edit extensions or add ones on your own. So you'd have to edit your operating system settings in order to gain that ability. Instructions on how to do that are in the links below. It's pretty simple, but also know that it's not really mandatory to do for this particular video, but it may be a good idea to have that option enabled regardless. So the goal for us is to create an icons.qrc file. Now this icons.qrc file can be placed anywhere. You can put it in the icons folder, or you can put it in the root folder. For now I'm going to put it in the icons folder. And the way to do that for me, since I'm on Windows, I'm just going to right click, go to new, and in this case I'm just going to select a new text document. Windows thinks it's smart enough, so it says I'm going to assign this an extension of txt. I'm just going to rename this to icons, but leave the extension as txt for now so that I can edit it. Now you can edit this resource file in whatever text editor you prefer. I just happen to like Notepad++ on Windows, so that's what I'm going to use. So let me open this text file and let's add some XML to it. If you're familiar with XML, that's great. If you're not, it's very similar to HTML, except that it's not really semantic. If you're not familiar with HTML, that's fine. Just follow along and you'll be just fine. So the first XML element that we want to add is the RCC, and make sure that it's all capital. Its child element is going to be a QResource element. And the QResource element is going to contain file elements, which will specify the path to our icon files. Since we have three icons, we'll need three file elements as well for each icon. So let's say file. The first one is facebook.png. Close the file element. Create another one, google+.png. And finally, for Twitter. Now let's close the QResource element and also close the RCC element. Now we need to save this file, but don't save it by clicking File Save or by typing Ctrl+S on your keyboard. Do a file and then save as. With the Save As dialog, you're offered an option of saving it as a specific type. In this case, we're going to select all types or all files depending on what application you're using. Then I'm going to manually add the extension from txt to icons.qrc. Hit save, minimize this, and you can see that now I have two files in my application, or rather my folder, not my application. So I can actually get rid of this icons.txt file. Okay, the boring part of icons is over, so let's make our application shine with our new icons. In Qt Designer, I'll go to the bottom right and make sure that this resource browser is selected. Then I'll click on this pencil icon here, and then on this open resource file icon here. Then I'm going to navigate and find my newly created QRC file, which is in the folder called Beautiful, named after our application, of course. And there's my icons.qrc. Look, I have all these three icons here to the right, and icons.qrc is selected. I'm not going to select any right now, I'm just going to click OK. And you can see that the three icons appear in the resource browser as well. So all of our icons are here, we just need to add them to our buttons. I'm going to click the Facebook button first, scroll down and find its icon property. Click on that, and then I'll click on this down arrow, hit choose resource, and I'm also greeted with that same dialog, except when I click resource root, I'm offered these three icons. Let me click on Facebook, and let me do the same thing for our Twitter and our Google Plus buttons. Now this looks just great. Let's make some adjustments. Click on the Facebook button and let me change the icon size from 16 by 16 pixels to at least 32 by 32. We do the same for the other two. And you know what I also kind of liked before? I liked having that text underneath. So I'm just going to scroll down and find this tool button style property and change it from tool button icon only to tool button text under icon. Let's do the same for these two guys. Now that's what I call a nice application. We have beautiful icons on the top, we have CSS styled Qline edits and our Q progress bar and our button, and this just looks great in my opinion. There, this is how you add icons to your application. But not just icons, any static images as well. Now, there's a different way to add an icon to an application by specifying the file name directly in the Qt Designer, but from my experience, that implementation is pretty buggy. Plus, it's important to familiarize yourself with the resources, at least somewhat. When developing your application, you'll want to use the resources not just for icons, but for manipulating your strings as well when you're implementing different languages. Now let me assign you some homework. Change the icon of our Qt dialog window from this green Qt to something much better.